Good morning everyone. My name is Vashisth and I welcome all of you in this class of Johar Edu campus. And today we are going to start a very important session on prelim exams that you may confront after some time. So this stage of prelim is very crucial. It is very important because once you clear this prelim exams, you get the chance to appear for mains and then interview. So your gateway of success start right from here. You may become the deputy collector and you may also occupy some other important and responsible positions just after 1 year of time. But first of all, you will have to clear this important hurdle, right? But once you clear this important hurdle, your competition is going to be significantly reduced. It will be reduced to the extent of almost 10 to 20 times. Why I am saying that? This is simply because the number of candidates in the prelim is very high as compared to the number of candidates in your mains. So once you clear your prelims, obviously the number of candidates with whom you may have the competitions will get significantly reduced and you may get advantage over some other candidates provided your mains preparation has been up to the mark. But I have seen many candidates in my teaching of students for the last 8 years of time that they have been able to clear the prelims but mains preparation is not up to mark. So this also is not going to help them out. If you want to finally crack these exams and occupy the position that you are aspiring for, you'll have to ensure that you devote the equal time to both the examinations. The importance of obviously mains is very high, but you cannot play down the importance of prelims in these examinations. As I told you that this is the gateway of success. This is the first hurdle that you have to cross if you want to be in the second round of competitions. So today in this session we will comment some fundamental rules about clearing the prelims. By looking at the nature of examinations and the pattern of questions that is being asked by the Jpsc, will formulate some fundamental rules that can help you to clear these examinations with a very little amount of efforts, right? My name is Vashisth and I think that the first segment of prelims will be started with my topic. This is Indian economy, right? You know that there are 100 questions being asked in the prelim stage. Each carry 2 marks. So you have prelims of 200 marks of GS paper 1, and out of 100 questions, Indian economy account for 10 questions. Every year 10 questions is being asked by the by the Jpsc, right? That means the weightage of Indian economy is 20 out of 200 marks, 10%. And I have seen that since the weightage of Indian economy has been lower as compared to other segment of GS like history or polity, you people tend to ignore the importance. You people tend to ignore the subject altogether. And it is not only the students that are ignoring the importance of Indian economy in prelims, even the coaching institutes and the teachers, they play down the importance of Indian economy. They disparage the importance of Indian economy in their prelim preparation. But this is not going to be a wise decision. This is not going to be helping for you, because even though it carries 20 marks of weightage, even though the number of questions is only 10, but you can secure all these marks with minimum amount of efforts, with minimum amount of time devoted. Like if you are going to cover other comprehensive areas, for example history, I'm not going to play down the importance of history as well, but if you go to cover the subject of history, it will require lots of time, it will require lots of efforts as well. But so far as economics is concerned, syllabus has been very precise, syllabus has been very limited, topics that you need to complete is very limited. You can secure all the marks in Indian economy just by providing a minimum amount of time and putting in little amount of efforts or drudgery. So there lies the wisdom of not ignoring Indian economy in your preparation for prelims. You just need to give appropriate amount of time. You just need to put appropriate amount of efforts, and you'll find that you have been able to secure, let's suppose the weightage is 20 marks, let's suppose you have been able to secure 15 marks. So this 15 marks is going to help you come ahead of other candidates, right? So this is the time you need to identify which areas you need to focus so that you may come ahead of other candidates. Like other candidates are completing their polity, they are completing their history, they are completing their current affairs, and you are also doing the same kind of things. So obviously you cannot expect that you will get ahead of all those candidates, because areas are not different, efforts are not different, time devoted are not different, they are equally identical, right? So now you have to identify some more areas so that you can just leave those people behind. So if you have been able to secure 15 marks out of, let's suppose, 20 marks by putting in very small amount of time, by putting in very small amount of efforts, then obviously you will have an edge over other candidates. This is what I'm going to emphasize here. This is what I have come for. I have come for to convince you that this is the area you must not leave out. This is the area you must focus, you must provide appropriate amount of time and effort so that you just come out flying colors in this examination. But I'm not going to put the entire burden on you people. I'm not going to say that you just go through the books, go through the syllabus and put an colossal amount of time and efforts. That's not going to yield the result. What I'm trying to do is to just be companion of yours. I will provide all the inputs, I will provide all the materials and the areas that you must focus so that you do not have difficulty in economics. I'm going to complete this session on Indian economy in around 10 to 12 classes, and 10 to 12 classes are more than sufficient for you to fetch at least 15 marks out of 20 marks. So there is no harm. There is no harm at all breaking the pattern of preparation that you have been going through for a long time. You people have been ignoring this subject for a long time. But now break this pattern of preparation and start giving importance to Indian economy as well. Once you start giving importance to Indian economy, I told you that you will have advantage over other candidates, because most of the candidates tends to ignore this portion of general study. But when you start completing even the topics of Indian economy, obviously you will have advantage over other candidates. But we have to think over the fact why students and coaching centers tends to ignore this subject. The first reason is that they consider this subject to be the complicated one. They consider that economics are technical, datas are complicated, and due to these complications they just ignore these subjects and emphasize on some other subjects so that they are not that uncomfortable in the preparation of prelims. But yes, I also agree that there are some complications, but it is not the pure economics that you need to study. You need to distinguish between Indian economy and pure economics. When we talk of pure economics, look here. When we talk of pure economics, you may have different areas of economics, like you may have microeconomics, you have macroeconomics, then international economics, public finance, then welfare economics, growth and development. These are the areas, different branches of economics. Economics as a science needs to be covered in all these areas. You have to complete micro, macro, international economics, public finance, welfare economics, growth and development, and some others. You don't need to read all these things because the syllabus and the topics that have been provided as the syllabus of Jpsc contains the areas from Indian economy only. Indian economy. You don't need to care about what are the theories of microeconomics, what are the theories of macroeconomics, how international trade and investment functions in the economy. That is the subject matter of international economics. You don't need to care about the public finance. Yes, to some extent you need to have the idea about the public finance or the finance of the government, and that basically you come to know through the economic survey or the budget, right? Then you don't have to think of the different complicated theories on growth and development or the welfare economics. These are not the areas that you need to complete. You just need to concentrate upon Indian economy. You just need to have the ideas about Indian economy. What are the important features of Indian economy? Then you must have the idea of the structure of our economy, right? Then you must have the idea about how the Indian economy has been doing over the last 70 years as compared to other countries. What have been the various reforms that we have been undertaking to make progress on social and economic fronts. So these are the things that you must know about the Indian economy, right? The basic important features of Indian economy, the structure of Indian economy, what kind of economy we are, how the agriculture system is working in our country, what is the conditions of industry in our country, what is the service sector and the importance of service sector in the productions of output, employment, right? And then you have to know about the reforms that we have been undertaking for the last 70 years, time to time. And the biggest reforms in recent times was undertaken by Government of India in 1991. So since we have been living in this country, since we have been the part of the process of development that has been taking place in our country, Indian economy is not something very strange to us. It is not something alien to us. We know every aspect of the economy, and for that you don't need to be that disturbed that it's a technical subject and you won't be able to complete it without putting in much and more time without putting in much and more efforts. No, because it basically relates to our economy in which we have been living. It relates to the economy we are the part of which, right? So you just need to put a very small amount of time and efforts, and you will see that you can solve at least 75% of questions out of the weightage that has been assigned for Indian economy. So within 20 hours of time, I am going to complete all the important syllabus, all the important topics that pertains to Indian economy. You may have seen the syllabus of Indian economy, right? And you just need to study some fundamental books, very fundamental books. And that's also required for the preparation of mains, right? Because once you prepare yourself for mains, I think that 70 to 80% of your syllabus of prelim will automatically covered. You don't need to make a separate study of prelims. Once you start preparing for mains, you will find that 70 to 80% by the time you complete all the topics of mains, you will find that 70 to 80% of your syllabus has been completed, right? But yes, when the PT comes, or before, I think that 3 to 4 months of time must be exclusively devoted for the preparation of prelims. First, you just complete all the topics of mains. You'll find that many of the topics that you have been completing in the preparation of mains will help you even in prelims, right? So the 70 to 80% of prelims will get covered in the process of your completing the syllabus of mains, right? And remaining 30% you will have to make an extra effort, and those efforts needs to be done by you when the examination is 3 to 4 months away, right? And these 3 to 4 months should be crucial and must be exclusively devoted for the preparation of prelims. So what fundamental books that you need to study? For the sake of understanding the structure of our Indian economy and its development, there is an NCERT book available in the market, and this NCERT book is class 11th NCERT book. Class 11th NCERT book, and this book is called Development of Indian Economy. Development of Indian Economy. So you need to go through this book again and again, at least twice or thrice, or till the time the entire concept of these books have been imprinted in your mind. You have to go through this book. And this is not because it is meant for the prelims. I am not saying that it's meant for prelims only. This book will help you understand the structure of Indian economy and how the economy of India developed since 1947. So the book will help you not only in your prelims but also in your mains. And I think that this is the most fundamental book. This is the most basic book that is available in the market for Indian economy, for understanding of Indian economy. Before referring to any of the market material available, you have to go through this book. You have to complete all the chapters of this class 11th NCERT book. That will make you understand the features of Indian economy, the structure of Indian economy and its development since 1947. So this is the book that you have to go through time and again in order to make your idea very clear about the structure of our Indian economy and some other dimensions of our Indian economy. This book has been presented in a very logical manner. Like you have some topics given as syllabus. Like the first topic that you have to complete, The first topic that you have to complete is important features of Indian economy. Important features of Indian economy. Indian economy. So this is the syllabus for prelims. You have to know about the features of Indian economy. And to know about the features of Indian economy, you have to look into some past incidents in our country. You cannot understand the features of Indian economy till you study about the British rule in our country and how the British rule in our country transformed the fundamental structure of our economy, right? And the best thing that you have to start from is the class 11th NCERT book of Indian economic development, right? And then you have the syllabus like sustainable development, and other issues of Indian economy. This is the environmental economics that you have to focus. This is the economics about the environment, how the activities or various economic activities, impact our environment, it impacts our resources, and how we are going to strike a good balance between the present use and the future use of resources, so that coming generations do not have any difficulties continuing with their life as we are living today, right? Then you have to cover the economic reforms. You have to cover the economic reforms, and one more topic is globalization, right? So when we talk of economic reforms, that it is not a one-time process. Rather, economic reforms is a continuous process. It has been undertaken by the government even today, as it was being undertaken by the government in the previous years. So the process will continue. Even the new government will come later on. The new government will have to also undertake some of the economic reforms, because as the nature and situation of the economy keeps on changing, we have to replace some old policies. We have to replace some previous policies and adopt some new policies, right? So we have to undertake various reforms as the economy progresses. So obviously in this particular topic, you don't need to read about the reforms that were undertaken by the government in the previous years, right? In the previous years, in the sense that before 1980 at least. The new phase of economic reforms began to surface after 1980, right? And that culminated into complete reforms in 1991. So reforms of 1991 that took our economy on the path of liberalization, privatization and globalization. So that is the very important reforms you have to study about. What we mean by liberalization, what we mean by privatization and globalization of the economy, what have been their impact, right? But you don't have to stop your preparation there only, right? Some more reforms have been adopted by the government even after 1991. Like that we just brought about a big reforms in taxation area in 2017. The GST has been introduced. It was introduced on 1st July 2017. So this has been the biggest reforms in taxation arena. And obviously when you study about economic reforms in this particular topic, you simply cannot leave out the reforms of GST that we have adopted in 2017. Some more reforms may have been adopted by the government after 1991, right? All these reforms, like the reforms in bank arena, the reforms in fiscal policy, the reforms on external front, right? All these reforms need to be studied even after 1991. But yes, of course, you don't need to read about the reforms that was undertaken by the government in 1951 or 1970, right? You don't need to do that. But yes, you have to commence your topics on economic reforms from the period of 1991, but you have to continue with all the reforms that was undertaken by the government in subsequent years, right? Then globalization is one of the component of economic reforms that will get covered once you complete the LPG, or the liberalization, privatization, or globalization, right? All these topics can have the fundamental in terms of class 11th NCERT book, right? Class 11th NCERT book on Indian economic development, on Indian economic development will give you the idea about important features of Indian economy and why those features keep on continue with our economy. What have been the historical background of those features? You'll get the idea once you start reading the NCERT of class 11th, right? Then in some chapters you'll have the conflict between the economy and environment. Like if we emphasize on augmenting the supply of goods and services, we have to set up industries, right? We have to set up industries in a rapid manner, in a comprehensive manner. But if we go for the expansion of industries, that is going to pollute our environment, that is going to result into lower of forest areas, right? And ultimately that will have the implications for our health, and even coming generations will get deprived of many of the benefits that natural resources endow on us, right? So in some chapters you will get the idea that there is a conflict, there is a trade-off between what we call the economic activity and secondly what we call the environment, right? Now we have to strike a balance, right? And this has not been the important aspect of our economy only. The worldwide we find that countries are jostling, they are making struggle to strike a balance between the environment and the economic activity, so that livelihood of people can be maintained, right? And then economic reforms is one of the chapters that you will find in class 11th NCERT book. So basically what happens, why the result has been much lower from the coaching institutes? The reason is that students focus on material that is available in the market without completing the basic or fundamental books in terms of NCERT. I'm not saying that coaching material is irrelevant. I'm not saying that all the materials that is available in the market is not going to help you. They will help you definitely. There is no doubt about that. Because if something is going to be printed for you by the teachers, obviously that is going to help you, no doubt. But you have to know where to start from. If you go after study materials provided by the coaching institutes without reading the NCERT, then obviously it's not going to help you. Make sure that you first complete your NCERT. And once you have completed your NCERT, you will find that the study material that has been provided to you and that may remain available in the market from where you purchase, obviously that becomes your just the easiest thing ever in your preparation, right? So there has to be a sequence that you need to follow. There has to be a step by step process that you need to know in order to get a mastery over any particular subject. So I want you to be the not the master of economics, but at least you need to be that comfortable that you easily handle the questions from economics, right? And as I told you that if you have been able to score 15 marks out of 20 marks, then obviously it's going to give you an advantage over other candidates, right? So let's suppose everybody has the same areas of focus, but you have been putting an extra effort in completing even the topics of economics that other candidates have been ignoring, then obviously that is going to give you advantage, right? But when you start from the market material without going through the fundamental books or fundamental topic, that will make your task the difficult one. You'll get confused, and after some time you will simply just leave the preparation of economics. You will say that yes, it's a complicated, and just like other candidates, you simply leave it out. That's not going to help you. Make sure that the study material that you pick up is going to, is helpful for you, and for that you need to first complete the NCERT or the fundamental book. Why I am suggesting this fundamental books of class 11th NCERT? As I told you that this has been a very handy book for Indian economy, to know about the structure of Indian economy, and this will help you not only in your prelims but also in mains examination. So I give you the brief outline of this book, right? I'm going to give you the brief idea of this book and how this book is going to help you in completing all these topics. No doubt I'm going to complete all these topics one by one within 20 hours of my classes. But of course, simultaneously, if you go through the NCERT, you find that my class has been very understanding. It has been very helpful, and when you just try to solve the questions from the previous years, obviously this will help you a lot and you become comfortable, right? So far as this book is concerned, the name of this book is Development of Indian Economy or Indian Economic Development. So basically you study about the development of Indian economy in this particular book. But when we talk of development of Indian economy, the first question is where it has to be started from, right? Where the development has to be started from, where the development has to be, read from. Do we need to study about the development of Indian economy from Mughal time, or even back to that period from the Maurya period or Gupta Vansh? No, you don't need to go that back. Even you don't need to study about the Indian economy from the Mughal time, right? But yes, you need to study about the development of Indian economy when India became a free country. India became a free country in 1947, and before that there has been the rule of the British government for almost 200 years in our country. British government ruled India for almost 200 years, and then we became a free country in 1997. So in this particular book, the development of Indian economy has been discussed right from the eve of independence. The first chapter, so the first chapter of this book is chapter 1. So the first chapter is the development of Indian economy. Indian economy on the eve of independence. This is the first chapter. Indian economy on the eve of independence. This is the first chapter. And when you study this chapter, the very first chapter of this book, you come to know about the conditions of our economy when British left India in 1947. You exactly come to know about the conditions of Indian economy at the time of 1947. And to explain the condition of Indian economy in this chapter, some parameters has been used, and even you have to use those parameters when you explain the condition of any economy, including Indian economy, right? So what are the parameters that you have to focus in order to know about the conditions of the economy? So the first parameter could be the development of various sectors of the economy. We know that there are 3 sectors of the economy in which goods and services are produced, right? One is the agriculture sector, that comes in primary sector of the economy. Second is the industries, secondary sector, and third sector is service sector, that is the tertiary sector of the economy. So these are the three sectors for the economy where people get the employment. These are the three sectors for the economy where the productions and income is being generated, right? So to know about the conditions of Indian economy, the first parameter that you have to study about the sectoral development. How has been the sectoral development? What has been the conditions of Indian agriculture? What has been the problem of Indian agriculture, right? Then what has been the conditions of industries and service sector? So this parameter has been used in this first chapter to explain about the conditions of our economy. You can see that the first chapter is on the conditions of Indian economy on the eve of independence, and for that reasons the sectoral conditions has been explained away, right? So in this chapter you find that the agriculture sector has been shown in a very poor light, as the condition of Indian agriculture was pathetic, right? Since although most of the people in our country were involved in agriculture sector, but the productivity and productions both were much lower as compared to other countries. There has been a constant conflict between the landlord and farmers. Farmers were not having their own land, and if they were having the land, they didn't have the other facilities so that they can just carry out the task of cultivations in a profitable manner. So agriculture was not commercial at all. Farmers were not having the marketable surplus so that they can earn the income. They were just doing the cultivations for the running their families, right? And the British government did literally nothing to improve the conditions of agriculture. They were just interested in extracting rent from Indian farmers, right? So this was the conditions of Indian agriculture, right? Then the conditions of industries has been explained in this first chapter. We know that due to British rule, the traditional and the handicraft industries of India got wiped out, right? All the traditional industries began to shut down one by one due to defective trade policy of British government in our country, right? They began to have the raw material from our country, take them away from us, and used in the process of productions in their own countries, and send the final goods into our country. So their final goods, since they were the result of the industrial revolutions that took place in British earlier, right? Our own product, our own traditional goods could not just withstand the pressures of those sophisticated goods. So ultimately our industries began to shut down, and there was monopoly of British goods in our country. So by the time British left India in 1947, we find that we had a handful of industries in our country. Only a handful of industries in our country. All the traditional industries had completely wiped out. And what about the service sector? The service sector was at a very nascent stage. The banking, insurance, management, consultancy, tourism, and all other services that we need in order to fulfill our needs, they were nowhere to be found. They were at a very elementary stage of development. So obviously, since there was neither industries nor service sector in our country, most of the people were employed in agriculture sector, but agriculture sector was not that profitable. It was not giving that much of income to the people who were just dependent on agriculture. So the sectoral picture of our economy indicates that India was a very poor economy when we got independence in 1947. India was not developed at all in 1947. Then the second parameter that can be used to explain the conditions of an economy is what? Is the condition of infrastructure in our country. Infrastructure. Infra has been one of the indication of development. Large the network of infrastructure, robust is the network of infrastructure, more is the development. Like you see the development of infrastructure in the US or the Canada or UK or other European countries, right? So the infrastructure is wide and robust, and that indicates about the level of development that they have achieved, right? So there are basically two kinds of infrastructure that we need to build up in order to propel the economy in the path of development. The first is the social infrastructure we must have. Social infra. So social infra may be in terms of schools, colleges, hospitals. These are the social infrastructure, right? Then we must have economic infrastructure also. Like we must have road, transportations, railways, power plant, then ports, airports. These are the examples of economic infrastructure. For the sake of social and economic development, we must have the combination of these two factors, these two kinds of infrastructure. So this is the parameter that has been used in the first chapter to explain away the conditions of our economy, and it has been specified in that chapter that in the name of railways we have only a few kilometers of them when British left India in 1947. We know that it was the British government that laid the foundation of railway in our country in 1853, but it was just to serve their own purposes. They wanted to transport the goods from one corner to another corner of India. They wanted to send the troops to quell the revolt that was taking place against the British government, and that is why they laid the foundation of railways. But the network of railway was backward. It was only a few kilometers of railways that we had at the time of independence. Then the condition of roads, power plants, airports, all these were pathetic. They were very insignificant, and the number of school, colleges and other hospitals they were nowhere to be found at the time of independence in 1947. So even the conditions of infrastructure, their availability throws the light on the fact that Indian economy has been poor, it has been backward. Then one more indication has been used is demographic profile of people. In this demographic profile, we get an insight into the social and economic development of the people living in our country, right? And there are so many indicators of demographic profile, right? Demographic profile means profile of the people living in the economy, right? And that gives you an idea the extent of the development that has taken place in our economy. So like demographic profile can be easily known through literacy rate. What is the percentage of literate people in our country? When India got independence, only 16% of Indian people were literate. Only 16% of Indian people could write and read in 1947, right? So the percentage of literacy ratio was very less. Then to know about the demographic profile, we use the birth and death ratio. Birth and death ratio. We know that if the economy is poor and backward, both of them will be higher. And as economy begin to make progress, you will find that both of these rates, birth rate as well as death rate, begin to climb down, right? So India used to be a poor economy that got reflected in our numbers of birth rate and death rate. Birth rate and death rate both were very high, and that is that is enough to say about the backwardness of our economy in 1947. Then there are some other indicators like the infant mortality ratio, MMR. Then other indications like sex ratio also indicates about the social development in our country. All these demographic profile and their indicators were showing us that India was a very poor economy at the time of independence in 1947, right? So when you go through this chapter, the very first chapter of this book, you will get the idea about the conditions of Indian economy. You'll get the idea about the different aspect of our economy. You'll get the idea as to why the economy of India was poor, like why the agriculture sector was backward, what were the conditions of industries, and what were the reasons for the backwardness of industries. You even get to know about different facets of Indian economy and their backwardness in this first chapter. And finally, you come to the conclusion that India had to make much and more efforts on both the fronts, social and economic fronts, in 1947, right? So what did India do in 1947? Since we realized that we were backward economy, we realized that people of India were not as developed as the people of some other countries like the UK that has been ruling India for almost 200 years, then we realized that we'll have to make some social and economic progress. Since now India became independent country, so it was the responsibility of the government of India as well as the state government to initiate various programs for the development of our economy, right? And as a broad strategy of development, India adopted planning. You must be knowing that on the line of recent development, we adopted planning in our country. We began to initiate 5 years plan for the sake of development of our society and economy, right? And the planning commission was established in 1950. So the first plan was introduced in 1951, and this was for 5 years plan, so it was from 1951 to 56. In planning, what happens, you set the target that you are going to achieve in this 5 years of time, right? Like the government may set the target how many kilometers of railways it is going to build in 5 years, how many kilometers of road it is going to build, how many schools and colleges can be built in 5 years of time. So all these targets can be set by the central planning authority, right? And within 5 years of time, the government or the planning authority and the state government, all of them will strive to achieve given their resources. So this is all about the planning. So second chapter is about planning of Indian economy, right? It is about, second chapter is about planning of Indian economy. Planning. So when we adopted planning, our economy began to develop, no doubt, right? We had some, a notable success of this planning strategy that we adopted. But planning was not a kind of, panacea for the ills of Indian economy, the malaise of Indian economy. We had some disadvantages also, and there were some problems that could not be solved due to adoption of planning, right? So ultimately what we find, by the time it was 1980 or 85, problems of Indian economy began to surface, right? And by the time it was 1991, those problems became the dominant features of Indian economy, right? Like the rate of inflation began to increase significantly. It was in double digit in 1991, like 15% or 16% in 1991. Then there was major crisis of foreign exchange in our country in 1991. This is called the BOP crisis, or crisis of balance of payment, right? We had only just $1 billion in our foreign exchange reserve to conduct international transactions, right? Right now we are very comfortable in terms of forex reserve. Reserve Bank of India is having $640 billion almost in the reserve, right? And that can be used to support the import bills for almost 2 years of time, or 1.5 years of time, right? But in 1991 we find that our reserve of foreign exchange that we use for the sake of transactions at international level plummeted to only $1 billion. And with the help of $1 billion, India could import goods and services just for 3 weeks of time. And after 3 weeks of time, no money at all, no foreign exchange at all to support our import bills, and even to bear the burden of interest on our external loans. So India was on the brink of default. If you are not having the foreign exchange, obviously you cannot pay the interest on your external loans. You will come on the brink of default. So India was at that time on the brink of default, as the forex reserve got depleted to only $1 billion, right? And then there was the fiscal deficit of government of India, just close to 10%, right? Close to 10%. The gap between the government expenditure and government revenue was also very high, that we call fiscal deficit. So these problems began to destabilize the macroeconomic fundamentals, right? We were on the brink of collapse, and this was the point of time that we needed to contemplate upon some reforms that India adopted exactly in 1991. Though the process had been initiated by our erstwhile Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in 1985, but the 85 reforms did not, give the desired result. So ultimately, in 1991, when Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister of India and Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Finance Minister of India, these two people took the initiative to put the economy on the right track. So reforms was adopted in 1991. So the third chapter is about economic reforms. Third chapter is about economic reforms, and we know that there were three important components of economic reforms: L, liberalization; P, privatization; and G, globalization, right? So in this particular chapter, things like meaning of LPG has been explained. What is LPG? What is privatization? What is globalization? This has been explained, and reforms that were undertaken by the government of India in 1991 in different sectors has been explained. Like what reforms took the government in industrial sectors, what reforms government started in taxation area, what reforms undertaken by the government in banking sector or financial sector, right? So all these reforms in different sectors of areas, different sector of the economy that were undertaken by the government in 1991 has been explained away in this particular third chapter, right? But even after these reforms that we perceive to be the biggest one since 1991, there has been some pestering and chronic challenge in front of our economy, right? So in the subsequent chapters, after third chapter, in the subsequent chapters, some chronic problems of Indian economy has been explained. Like in the fourth chapter, you have the problems of poverty, right? In this chapter, the technical meaning of poverty has been given. Then types of poverty like absolute poverty, meaning of absolute poverty, how it is measured, and different methodology that has been used by the government of India to measure absolute poverty, that has been given. Then relative poverty has also been explained, what is relative poverty, how it is measured, and then the causes of poverty and their remedial measures has been provided here. Then in the fifth chapter, again another chronic problem has been explained. This is called unemployment. Then sixth chapter is about the problem of rural development, right? So you can see that this chapter has been presented in a very logical manner. You start from the first chapter, that is called the development of Indian economy on the eve of independence, right? Here you come to know about the condition of our economy, the condition of various sectors of the economy and their historical regions, right? And when you come to the conclusion that India was a backward economy, you just understand the rationale why government of India adopted planning in 1951, right? So second chapter is about planning. Here the meaning of planning, the classification or various kinds of planning, their objectives, that has been explained in the first part, and in the second part an evaluation of planning has been presented, like what have been the successful result of planning and what have been the areas that planning could not achieve, and that culminated into the crisis in 1991. And third chapter is about economic reforms, and after that the subsequent chapters talks about the chronic problem of Indian economy in terms of poverty, unemployment and rural development, right? So I would suggest this fundamental book of class 11th NCERT as your Bible for getting mastery over Indian economy. You have to go through this book again and again till the entire chapters, the entire concept get ingrained in your mind, right? And that's, I don't think that if you read sincerely this book twice or thrice, you will be able to achieve this objective. Everything will be imprinted in your mind, right? So you start from here, and that becomes very easy to understand and make preparation for your prelims, right? So far as your prelims is concerned, I told that there are 10 questions that has been asked every year, and each carry marks 2 marks each questions carry, right? So 20 marks is the weightage of Indian economy, right? And I'm going to give you assurance that I would be able to complete all these topics within 20 hours, right? So you just need to give 20 hours of time. You will see that you will get comfortable in all these topics, and now this area will become the comfortable area for you, right? So apart from other subjects, the economics becomes one of the subjects from where you can score a very good marks, right? So the topics that I discuss is that we have to study about the features of Indian economy, then you have to study about sustainable development, then the last one is economic reforms and globalization. You just need to complete all these things. So far as features are concerned, right? Look, so far as features are concerned, from here you will get the factual questions only, right? Like some of the features of Indian economy. Can you tell me some of the features of Indian economy? Yes. What are the features of Indian economy? So we are a developing economy, right? We are neither underdeveloped nor as developed as the Western countries or the US. We are in between underdevelopment and developed, and this stage of transition is called developing economy. So this is one of the important features of Indian economy, that we are developing economy, right? And what are the sign of developing economy? In developing economy, what happens? You have all the important features of underdevelopment, but you show the sign of development, right? Like one of the important features of underdevelopment is low per capita income, right? Our income, our per capita income is low, but why Indian economy is considered to be the developing economy? Because our per capita income has been on the increase, right? Though our per capita income is very low, just like underdeveloped economy, but the fact is that our per capita income has been increasing over the last few years, and that is the sign of development, right? India is making progress. So we are developing economy. We are developing and breaking the cycle of being put into the category of underdeveloped economy, right? So from here you have to gather some facts. Like I told you that India's per capita income is very low, right? This is one of the important features of Indian economy. Per capita income is very low. Now you have to gather the factual informations, like how much is per capita of income, right? How much is India's per capita income, and on what basis the per capita income is defined by the World Bank. Then what income is perceived to be sufficient for the economy to come into the category of developed economy, and what income is considered to be considered for the countries to be put into the category of developing or underdevelopment, right? Then what is per capita income, how it is calculated, all these things can be gathered in terms of facts from this particular topic. Then another important features could be the saving rate of Indian economy is very less. Then you have to know what is the saving rate, right? And today what is the percentage of our saving, and you need to compare the percentage of saving even with other countries, right? So from this particular topic, features of Indian economy, you just need to gather some facts, gather some data, and those data and those facts is based on the important characteristics of our economy, right? Then so far as economic reforms, the last one, and globalization is concerned, you have to emphasize upon all the reforms undertaken by the government since 1991, right? You have to begin from 1991. You have to know what areas government undertook reforms in, like what have been the reforms in agriculture sector, what have been the reforms in industrial sector, what have been the reforms in service sector, the reforms in fiscal policy, reforms in taxation policy, reforms in external sector. You have to know about all them, right? And then you have to go ahead and continue with all the reforms undertaken by the government in subsequent years. Like I told you that in 2017 the government of India introduced the biggest reforms in tax arena, that is called GST. So GST has to be the part of your syllabus, right? Then you must be knowing that just recently in 2019 Narendra Modi government introduced 3 reforms in the farm sector, and 3 farm bills were presented and it was passed by the parliament. But ultimately just few days back the government had to withdraw those farm bills in order to pacify our farmers, right? So you have to know what are the problems of agriculture sector and what exactly reforms have been undertaken by the various government since 1997, right? And then this one is very, very important, sustainable development. This basically pertains to the conflict between economic activities and environment, right? When we undertake the economic activities like production or establishment of factories, that creates the problem of pollution in our society. Our pollution is getting polluted, the layer of ozone is getting depleted day by day because of emission of greenhouse gases, right? So there is a conflict. When we progress, obviously our income increases, but that simultaneously pollute our society, and those pollutions can make us sick and weaker. So how to strike a balance? What is sustainable development? What are the important features of sustainable development? And what has been the sustainable development goals, right? That has been adopted by various countries under the leadership of United Nations. And before that we had the MDG, Millennium Development Goals. So what has been the difference and what has been the performance of Government of India in sustainable developments? Which state of India has been faring better as compared to other state of India? Like if the state of Kerala has been faring better as compared to the state of Jharkhand, what has been the reasons? So all these current developments in the areas of economics and environment has to be studied upon, right? So within 20 hours of time I would be able to complete all these things, and you just need to continue with my classes, and I assure you that you don't need to make any extra efforts in order to get the mastery over all these topics, so that you become comfortable in solving all these questions. So I guarantee you that if you continue with my classes, you will be able to fetch at least 15 marks out of 20 marks that has been the weightage of Indian economy. So stay connected with Johar Edu campus. That has been one of the wonderful platform that I have found, though I have been providing classes basically in Delhi, but Dr. R.K. Pandey sir told me that it has been the boon for the students of Jharkhand. So I promise you that we will keep on fulfilling the promise and will provide you the best material that you require in order to clear this examinations. Thank you and all the best.